Married for 3 years. My wife ran away with a monk. That monk chants and eats vegetarian food every day, always talking about releasing captive animals. His social media is full of goodness, or umataba, but my wife acts like she's possessed, spending money on him, without blinking an eye. My mom got into a car accident, and urgently needed 1 million for surgery. The money was all in that monk's hands. I went to ask for the money. He said cutting open the body violates natural harmony, so it's better not to do the surgery. I kneeled down and begged him. He pushed me away. If your mother's karma isn't cleared, forcing the surgery will only hinder her journey to Pure Land. I turned to beg my wife. She hugged that monk, looked at me coldly, and said, he is in charge of everything at home. Only this way will he accept my pursuit? In the end, my mom died. The next day, he sent my mom's body for a sky burial, and even sent me a video to watch. When Lu Wantang found out, she just patted his head. I has good intentions. Don't be ungrateful. This is the person I loved for 3 years. Now I just want her to know what regret means. When I rushed into her study, she was looking down at documents, wearing those gold-rimmed glasses. Her face was still the one I was familiar with, but when she looked up at me, her eyes were so cold that it panicked me. I stood in front of her, my voice trembling. Wantang, are the rumors outside true? She looked at me for a while, put down her pen, and admitted it bluntly, without even blinking. I have fallen for Peifan. Baiken, if I had met him earlier, I wouldn't have married you. I took a step back, my legs so weak I almost couldn't stand. She paused, and added, but rest assured, I told you at our wedding, that I won't divorce you, so the position of husband is still yours, but don't interfere with me anymore. He is my true love. I stood frozen, my mind buzzing. Then what am I? What were those 3 years? What about the past where I almost died for her? What does it all count for? I wanted to question her, but all words were stuck in my throat, unable to utter a single word. I couldn't even fucking cry. That night, I suffered from insomnia, lying in bed replaying her words over and over. I don't believe it. I really don't. That woman who made a huge scene pursuing me back then, who took multiple stabs to save me, and almost died in a warehouse. How could she become like this? I comforted myself that she was just confused for the moment. Once the novelty wears off, she will realize that Peifan is nothing special, and she will come back. I held on to this pathetic thought, and waited day by day. But what I waited for was her personally bringing Peifan home, and clearing out the room next to our bedroom, with the best lighting, just for him to live in. What shocked me more was, she actually handed over the family's financial power to him. I stood at the stairs, watching the butler carry stacks of documents into Peifan's room. My heart felt like it was being carved by a knife, slice by slice. But what could I do? I could only endure it. I told myself, it's okay. As long as she remembers her wedding vows, as long as she doesn't divorce, I can wait. Wait for her to think clearly. Wait for her to bring her heart back. But I never expected that I would be waiting for the news of my mother's death. That day, I was reading in the study, when my phone suddenly rang. It was the hospital calling, saying my mom had a severe car accident, was undergoing emergency treatment, and urgently needed a 1 million surgery fee. Otherwise it would be too late. My head exploded with a buzz. I hung up and rushed downstairs. Halfway down, I remembered that all the family's money was now in Peifan's hands. I stood at his door, took several deep breaths before knocking. He was arranging flowers in the sunroom, dressed in a plain long robe, holding scissors, trimming a few lilies, looking like he was creating art. I stood in front of him, my voice distorted with anxiety. Peifan, my mom got into a car accident. She urgently needs 1 million for surgery. You have the money? You have to give it to me. He slowly cut off a withered leaf from a lily, without even lifting his eyelids. Cutting open a body violates natural harmony, he said. It's better not to do this surgery. I thought I heard wrong. What did you say? I grabbed his wrist tightly. That's my mom. She's in critical condition. The doctor says without surgery it'll be too late. He finally looked up at me, his eyes as calm as stagnant water, without a ripple. Mr. Gu, please calm down. He shook off my hand. If your mother built good karma in her life, Buddha will bless her, and shall recover without surgery. If her bad karma remains then this is her fate. Insisting on surgery will only hinder her passing to Pure Land. I will go chant and pray for her. This is the righteous path. After he finished, he actually put down the scissors and walked towards the door. I froze for a second, then rushed up like crazy to stop him. You can't go. This is murder. He looked at me, frowned, as if looking at an ignorant child. Sir, you don't understand Dharma. I don't blame you, but by stopping me like this, you will harm your mother. I firmly blocked the door, my voice cracking. Give me the money. Let me go pay for the surgery. My mom can't wait anymore. He sighed and walked past me to leave. In a panic, I reached out to grab him. With that pull and push, he tripped over the doorsill, let out a cry, and fell flat on his back. Just then, footsteps came from the door. Lu Wantang returned. She immediately saw Pei Fan on the ground, and her face instantly darkened. She quickly went over to help him up, her movement as gentle as holding something fragile. "A Fan, what happened?" She looked him up and down. "Did you get hurt? Anywhere?" Her voice was so tender I barely recognized it. I stood aside watching her, holding Pei Fan's shoulder, watching him lean on her and tell her what just happened. In the end, he even added, Don't blame Mr. Ju. He is just desperate to save his mother. Only his methods are too extreme, but I can't watch him commit a deadly sin, harming his mother and himself." Listening to these words, I trembled with rage. "Bullshit. You are talking absolute nonsense." Lu Wantang looked up at me, her gaze so cold it sent chills down my spine. She didn't hesitate at all, directly ordering the bodyguards. "Someone, take Ju Baiken back to his room and watch him. Without my permission, he is not allowed to leave even a step." I was stunned. "A Fan." She turned to Pei Fan, her tone so gentle it was like a different person. "Go to the hospital and pray for Mrs. Gu in your own way." My mind exploded with a boom. I rushed up to grab her sleeve, my voice cracking. "Lu Wantang, you know Hei's talking nonsense. That's superstition. That will kill my mom. Must you sacrifice my mother to prove your deep love for him?" She looked down at my hand, then pried my fingers open one by one. The force wasn't strong, but so cold it chilled my heart. "Stop causing trouble. I told you before bringing A Fan home. For now, everything at home follows his word. Only this way. Will he accept my pursuit?" She waved her hand. The bodyguards immediately grabbed my arms and dragged me out. "Lu Wantang, let me go. That's my mom. You can't do this." "Lu Wantang." I struggled desperately, screaming until my throat was hoarse. My nails left white scratch marks on the doorframe, but she just stood there, watching me being dragged away, with no expression on her face. The door was shut and locked. I threw myself at the door, pounding desperately. "Open the door. I beg you to open the door. My mom is still in the hospital. If she doesn't get surgery, it'll be too late." Nobody answered. I kneeled at the door and yelled over and over, until my voice gave out, until my tears dried up. It remained dead silent outside, without even the sound of footsteps. I slumped on the floor, my mind a complete mess. How could this happen? Clearly, not long ago, she was still the woman who loved me to death. Back then, I was just a poor student, relying on Lu Group sponsorship to finish college. She was the high-end mighty female CEO, noble and aloof, yet she fell in love with me at first sight, at a campus event, and she pursued me vigorously. I didn't believe rich families had true hearts, and rejected her time and again, but she was like someone hitting a wall and never turning back, using all her patience and tenderness to slowly break my hard shell. The most thrilling time, I was kidnapped. She broke into that abandoned warehouse when the kidnapper's knife pierced her body. She didn't even make a sound, stabbed multiple times, and covered in blood. She still firmly protected me. Waking up, her first sentence was asking if I was hurt. It was that body full of blood and those weak words that completely crushed my defenses. At the wedding, she held my hand and swore in front of all the guests, "In this life, I, Lu Wantang, will only love you. I will never let you suffer any grievance." The words still echo in my ears. But now, for another man, she pushed my mom into the fire pit. This night was as long as a century. I don't know how I made it through. I only know when dawn was breaking, the door finally opened. Blinding sunlight shone in. I stumbled out. Pei Fan was standing at the door looking relaxed, still with that compassionate look. I grabbed his arm tightly, my voice trembling uncontrollably. "Where is my mom? How is my mom?" He looked at me and sighed softly. "Mr. Gu, my condolences. Buddha has already taken your mother. This means your mother didn't do enough good deeds in life. This is her destiny." My vision went black, and I could barely stand. "As for your mother's body," he continued, his tone as flat as if saying, "What he ate today, cremation pollutes the air and damages public morality. I already had it sent for a sky burial overnight. News came this morning. Vultures have cleanly pecked away your mother's remains. This is a good thing," meaning Buddha eventually forgave her. Saying this, he took out his phone, opened a video, and handed it to me. In the video, on a desolate sky burial platform, a flock of vultures was frantically feeding on a body whose face was already unrecognizable. All the blood in my body rushed to my head. Payfan, I let out a wretched roar, knocked his phone away, my eyes instantly bloodshot. I will kill you. I lunged at him like a madman, but before touching him, I was grabbed around the waist by an arm. "Gu Beacon, what crazy fit are you having again?" It was Lu Wantang's voice. She held me firmly in her arms, her tone full of impatience. "Afan also has good intentions. Your mother's death was an accident. It has nothing to do with him. At worst, he'll buy you more jewelry as compensation later." I stared at her blankly. Looking at this face, I knew to my bones, feeling a sharp pain in my chest, and a sweet metallic taste rising in my throat. No amount of gold or jewelry could bring my mom back. I suddenly vomited a mouthful of blood, the dark red blood splattering on the expensive carpet, shocking to the eyes. My vision went black. I couldn't hold on anymore, and completely lost consciousness. Waking up again, I was in my own bedroom, lying on the bed, staring at the ceiling, my tears already dried up. My mom was gone, killed by them, and I could do nothing. I slowly sat up, opened the bedside table, took out paper and pen, and stroke by stroke wrote down, "Divorce agreement." Writing those words, my hands were shaking, not because I couldn't let go, but out of hatred for her, and for myself. I hated myself for being blind back then, believing her lies. After writing the last word, I held that document, weightless, yet heavy as a ton, and went to Lu Group. The receptionist stopped me, informing me formally, President Lu is in an extremely important meeting. She ordered not to see anyone." I nodded, didn't say anything, and sat in the waiting area, like a puppet drained of its soul. Just at this moment, Payfan also arrived. He was still wearing that plain long robe, walking with a breeze, with the air of an enlightened monk. Seeing me, he stopped, showing that compassionate expression that disgusted me. "Sir, you look very unwell. I saw you vomiting blood yesterday. Why not rest more today? Life and death are fated. Wealth and honor are given by heaven. Your mother passing to Pure Land is a liberation. Why are you so stubbornly grieving and ruining yourself? Do you need me to chant and perform a ritual for you? To dissolve this obsession?" I couldn't be bothered to look up at him. My heart was already dead. I didn't even want to lift my eyelids. I handed over the document in my hand. "If you really want to help me take this to her to sign." He took it, a bit curiously. "What is this? Didn't she say yesterday she'd compensate me?" I forced a faint, almost non-existent smile. "I've already picked out the items. The list is at the back, waiting for her to sign and pay. Why don't you go in and give it to her yourself? If I go in, she'll want to see me." I looked up at him, my eyes empty. "Don't you know? She only wants to see you now." He sighed, looking very helpless. Goodness. Fine. I will help you." This time, he held the document, and walked straight to the CEO's office. Without even knocking, he directly pushed open the meeting room door. A high-level meeting was going on inside. All the executives were stunned, looking at this uninvited guest. But Lu Wantang, sitting at the head, not only wasn't angry, her eyes instantly filled with that doting look I was familiar with. "Afan, why are you here?" He smiled. Something came up. He walked over, whispered a few words in her ear, then placed the document in front of her. She didn't even look at the content, directly picked up the pen, and signed her name at the end. She even gently touched his hair. The executives looked at each other in dismay. Faint gasps could be heard. I stood outside the crack of the door, quietly watching this scene. My heart could no longer feel the pain. Only a numb coldness remained. He soon came out, and handed the signed document to me. "It's signed," he said, not forgetting to advise me. "However, Mr. Gu, jewelry and wealth are all worldly possessions. They are illusions. Clinging to them is useless for spiritual practice. You should not covet these anymore. Why not join me in cultivating the mind and body, chanting Buddha and practicing Zen?" I gave an took the divorce agreement, and turned to leave. I didn't go home, and went straight to the law firm. Handing the divorce agreement to the lawyer, I calmly said, "I want to process a divorce." The lawyer opened the document, froze for a moment, then nodded knowingly. "Mr. Gu, this divorce agreement is valid, based on the situation of you two. After passing the 1-month divorce cooling-off period, the marriage relationship can be dissolved." I nodded, my heart in a dead, silent peace. After returning home, I locked myself in my room, never stepping out the front door, nor crossing the second door, just waiting for the divorce cooling-off period to end. But in this villa, every day, I could see Lu Wantang's meticulous care for Payfan. They ate together, walked together, drank tea in the garden together, She peeled fruit for him, draped a coat over him, straightened his collar. That gentle gaze, those soft movements, used to all belong to me. But now I was like an invisible person, walking past me. She wouldn't even glance at me. If it were before, I would definitely be heartbroken to death. But now, I only felt complete indifference, just wanting to leave this suffocating place quickly. That day the butler brought over a cardboard box. Mr. Jew. He looked sorrowful. The old lady's clothes you asked me to pack from the countryside are all here? I took the heavy cardboard box, opened it to look. Inside were all the things my mom used. That floral shirt she liked the most. That pair of cloth shoes she was reluctant to wear. That sewing box she used for 20 years. My tears instantly welled up. Sorrow and remorse were like venomous snakes, tightly wrapping around my heart. But at this very moment, Pei-fan appeared again like a lingering ghost. He stood in front of me, looking at my crying face, and asked, "What is Mr. Gu grieving for again?" I didn't utter a word. The butler explained in a low voice. Sir thought of his mother. Hearing this, he immediately put his palms together. Enchanted Omat. Your mother has entered the Pure Land, escaping the sea of suffering. This is a joyful event. Everyone has to go through this journey. Why must you insist on crying and vainly increase your karma? I abruptly looked up, my bloodshot eyes staring daggers at him. If it wasn't for you, my mom wouldn't be dead. I didn't want to say another word to this venomous person, picked up my mother's belongings, and turned back to my room, but I didn't see him standing there, looking at my back, sighing, then muttering to himself, "Forget it. Stubbornly misguided, pitiful and lamentable. I will help him one last time." To dispel his inner demons, he called the butler. "Go catch some snakes." The butler's face changed. "Mr. Pe, the thing Sir fears the most is snakes. What do you need snakes for?" His face darkened, and he said, displeased, Wantong said, "Everyone in this house must listen to me. Are you trying to disobey her orders?" The butler, thinking of Lu Wantang's indulgence towards him, dared to be angry but not to speak, could only bite the bullet and comply. That night, I slept very restlessly, my dreams full of my mom, and those snakes. Suddenly, I felt something cold and slippery, crawling on my body. I woke up with a start, turned on the bedside lamp, and a shrill scream pierced the night sky. My room was densely packed with crawling snakes, big and small, twisting and writhing, flicking their tongues, their cold scales flickering with eerie light under the lamp. All the blood in my body went cold. Extreme fear instantly paralyzed me. I scrambled and crawled towards the door, wanting to escape. But the door was locked from the outside. "Open the door. Let me out. There are snakes. So many snakes." I frantically beat the door panel, my voice distorted from extreme terror. From outside the door came Pei-fan's calm voice. "In the middle of the night, what are you screaming for? Disturbing people's cultivation. The snakes, it's you. You put them here." I roared. "Pei-fan, let me out." I was on the verge of breaking down. "It is me," he admitted frankly, his tone even carrying a hint of "for your own good" reproach. "Aren't you unable to sleep because of your mother's death? Due to sorrow. The nature of snakes is extremely yin and still, most gentle and psychic. Having them accompany you can help you calm your mind and focus, dispelling your sorrow and obsession." "Why are you so agitated and speaking nonsense again?" I screamed. "You are absolutely a lunatic. Let me out. I beg you, Lu Wantang. Lu Wantong, save me." I was already incoherent. The commotion here finally drew Lu Wantong over. She walked over in her nightgown, looking at the locked door, frowned and asked, "What's going on? What's the noise?" I was like grasping at a lifeline. "Lu Wantang, it's Pei-fan. He filled my room with snakes. You know I'm most afraid of snakes. Please let me out. Get rid of them. I'm going to die." Pei-fan put his arm around her shoulder and explained softly, "Wantang, don't listen to his nonsense. I just wanted to help him. Snakes can calm the mind. I have good intentions. He is always like this, overly emotional, which is bad for his physical and mental well-being." She stayed silent for a moment, her gaze shifting between the closed door and Pei-fan's face. My heart sank bit by bit, but I still held on to a faint glimmer of hope. Before, just seeing snake images on TV, she would immediately change the channel, cover my eyes, and softly comfort me. Finally, she spoke. "Baiken, stop making a fuss. A-fan also has good intentions. Anyway, these are all non-venomous rat snakes. Being bitten a few times won't hurt. Besides, A-fan is right. They have a gentle nature. Having them accompany you, maybe you want. Always be thinking about your mother's matter." She paused, and added, "Even though you are afraid now, after staying long enough and getting used to it, naturally, you won't be afraid anymore." After saying that, She took Pei Fan's arm and said gently, "It's late. Let's go back and rest. Don't waste your energy on him." The footsteps gradually faded away, the world outside the door returning to silence. Inside the door, I completely broke down. I slumped onto the ground, as if someone had pulled out all my bones and soul. Several cold snakes slowly crawled over my ankles and arms. I even forgot to struggle, only staring with a pair of empty eyes. Looking at the dim light on the ceiling, one snake seemed confused by my stillness, raised its head, and tentatively took a bite on my arm. A slight stinging pain came. Darkness surged up like a tide, completely swallowing my last shred of consciousness. Waking up again, the smell of disinfectant lingered at my nose. What came into view was the hospital's pale ceiling, and Lu Wantang sitting by the bed. Seeing me open my eyes, she spoke. "You're awake," her tone indiscernible of much emotion. "How do you feel?" I turned my head away, not wanting to look at her, my voice dry and hoarse. "You refused to open the door for me last night. Why bother asking about my condition today?" She frowned, seemingly somewhat displeased with my attitude, but ultimately, still patiently said, "I know you are still angry, but Afan didn't have any bad intentions. He just had good intentions. Wanting to help you dispel your inner demons. Don't give him attitude anymore in the future. After all, you still have to live peacefully under one roof in the future." I sneered in my heart. Over the next few days, she stayed in the hospital to take care of me, attending to every detail, even personally feeding me water and medicine. But I observed coldly, always catching her picking up her phone from time to time, fingertips typing rapidly. The flashing avatar on the screen was Pei Fan's. When she looked at the screen, her eyes would unconsciously become gentle. That was the gentleness I was once incredibly familiar with, but now so out of reach. I felt it was incredibly ironic, and said lightly, "If you miss him, go see him. You don't need to keep watch over me here." She put away her phone, looked up at me, her tone flat. "No need. Right now, you are the most important." I closed my eyes, and said no more. How could she care about me? She kept watch here, merely afraid that after I was discharged, I would vent all my resentment and anger on Pei Fan, the one in her heart. She really loved that Buddhist disciple madly, but what about the one she used to hold in her heart? Reluctant to say a single harsh word to, heartbroken at the sight of a single tear dropping. What did that count for? Just a joke. The day of my discharge, the weather was fine and sunny, but the sunlight couldn't shine into my heart. She finished the procedures for me. We sat in the car, and she seemingly unintentionally mentioned, "Afan's birthday is in a few days. So that you can get along well in the future, you should also prepare a gift. A consecrated Buddhist sutra from Jai Temple. Afan will surely like it." I looked out the window, my voice without a single ripple. "I want, and I will not live peacefully with him." Her face instantly darkened. The air in the cabin became stagnant. She turned her head, the gaze behind her gold-rimmed glasses cold as a knife, and slowly spoke. "Baiken, I am not informing you. If you don't go, imagine what will happen to that relic of your mother's in your room." I abruptly turned my head, staring at her with wide, disbelieving eyes. She actually used my mom's belongings to threaten me. My voice trembled beyond recognition due to anger. "Do you really love him that much? Love him so much that you'd trample on me like this?" I grabbed her arm, like grabbing onto the last piece of driftwood. "Do you still remember? Do you still remember how you swore to me back then? You said in this life you'd only love me, to be a pair for a lifetime with me. How long has it been? 3 years, only 3 years, and you've changed your heart. How could you do this?" My eye sockets were flushed, eyes bloodshot, voice choking. All the grievances, pain, and despair completely erupted at this moment. However, she just looked at me calmly, even furrowing her brows slightly, as if watching a farce that had nothing to do with her. Waiting for my emotions to ease slightly, she coldly spoke. "Your tears are useless to me now." I stared blankly at her indifferent profile, and suddenly started laughing miserably and desolately. Yet the tears flowed even fiercer. Yes, when she loved me, if I shed a single tear, she would ache endlessly. Now that she didn't love me, even if I cried until I was blind, it would only merely invite annoyance. I raised my hand and fiercely wiped away the tears on my face. Took a deep breath, my voice frighteningly calm. "Fine, I will go." That so-called consecrated Buddhist sutra required sincere praying at a 1,000-year-old temple. In order to be granted, the rules were harsh. One needed to kneel on the bluestone slabs outside the temple for a full day and night, to show sincerity, and then walk barefoot across a path of red-hot burning coals, to prove one's faith. In order to protect my mother's last memento, I did everything exactly as required. In the piercing chill of early spring, I kneeled on the cold, hard stone slabs. From sunrise to moon, and then to the faint glow of dawn the next day, my knees went from stinging to numb, and then to losing all sensation. My lips were cracked, my face pale as paper, but I kept my teeth clenched all along, keeping my back straight. Next was the charcoal brazier. Scorching heat waves rushed at my face, the red-hot coals making crackling sounds. I took off my shoes and socks. The moment I stepped on it barefoot, the piercing agony almost made me faint. The smell of burning flesh was faintly discernible, biting my lower lip so hard that blood seeped out. I walked step by step as if on a mountain of blades and a sea of fire, leaving blurred bloody footprints behind me. When I finally got that cold scroll of sutra, my feet were a bloody mess. Completely exhausted, I could barely stand. I dragged my broken body down the mountain, and nursed my injuries for many days before I could barely walk. It happened to be Pei Fan's birthday banquet. The Liu family villa was brightly lit, gathered with guests. The level of luxury far exceeded any of my past birthday banquets. The surrounding whispers constantly drifted into my ears. President Liu truly spoils this Mr. Pei to the heavens. Yeah, back then she wasn't this extravagant with that one either. Only seeing the new person smile. Who hears the old person cry? I stood expressionless in the corner, watching Lu Wantang meticulously take care of Pei Fan, getting him drinks, draping a coat over him, her gaze so gentle it could drip water. My heart was completely dead, without any more ripples. When it came to the gift-giving segment, Lu Wantang presented a priceless antique, jadeite bracelet, crystal clear and translucent. It drew gasps of amazement and envy from the whole room. Then, she turned her gaze to me in the corner. With an unquestionable signal, I clenched the golden scroll in my hand, my nails digging into my palms, walked forward step by step, and handed the golden scroll to Pei Fan. "Happy birthday," I said, my voice flat and emotionless. "For you." He took it, opened it to look, and his face immediately showed a look of extreme surprise and joy. "It's a handwritten diamond sutra from Jai Temple." He looked at me. "Mr. Gu, how did you know? This is what I have been longing for." "Thank you so much," Lu Wantang told me. I told the truth. He immediately looked at Lu Wantang with emotion, his eyes flowing with affection. "Wantang, you are so good to me, remembering everything." "Thank you." A sweet curve formed at the corners of his lips. He raised his hand to hug her neck, tilted his head back and whispered in her ear. The voice was not loud, but enough for me, standing close by, to hear clearly. "Just a thank you. Aren't you going to give a practical reward?" Hearing this, her ears turned red. She lowered her head and quickly kissed the corner of his lips. "Is this okay?" His eyes lit up, touching the corner of his lips as if reminiscing, and chuckled. "What kind of reward is this?" She grabbed the back of his head, her voice elegant and sexy. "Let me show you what a real kiss is." After saying that, under everyone's watchful eyes, she tilted her head up and kissed his lips deeply, passionate and lingering, as if there was no one else around. I just stood aside, watching helplessly as they kissed intimately. When the kiss ended, he leaned into her embrace, his face completely flushed. I forcefully suppressed the surging blood in my chest, looked at Lu Wantang, and said hoarsely, "My task is done. Can I leave now?" Right at this moment, the butler suddenly ran in from outside in a panic. "Miss, this is bad," he shouted loudly. "A flock of eagles flew in from nowhere outside, and they keep circling above the villa, refusing to leave." A commotion stirred among the guests. Pei Fan's eyes, however, lit up. He said with pleasant surprise, "Umataba, eagles circling on my birthday. This is a great auspicious sign. It is a revelation from Buddha, telling me to follow Buddha's example, to cut my flesh to feed the eagles, to perform an act of great compassion." Hearing this, Lu immediately frowned. "No," but he insisted, looking down at her, his tone carrying a fanatical devotion. "Wantang, if you truly love me, you should support my faith. This is my opportunity to accumulate merit." Her face looked terrible, pressing her lips tightly together, looking at the dark shadows circling above, and then at the man with determined eyes beside her. She finally said in a deep voice, "Fine. If you must do this, then I will do it for you." He instantly teared up with emotion. "Wantang, you are actually willing to do this for me." But then he shook his head. His gaze shifted, and landed on my pale face. "No, I can't bear to let you do it. Why not let Mr. Gu do it?" Previously, to release his mother's soul from purgatory, I chanted so many sutras, and expended a lot of mental energy. Now, let him repay this karmic debt for me, and fulfill this merit of cutting flesh to feed the eagles. I looked at him in disbelief, and then at Luan, shaking my head desperately. "No, no." He looked anxiously at the sky. The eagles are about to fly away. The opportunity is fleeting. Forget it. Forget it. I will just do it myself. Saying this, he was about to look for a knife. She immediately stopped him. Her eyes turned cold. And without further hesitation, she directly ordered the bodyguards nearby, hold him down. Several bodyguards immediately stepped forward and tightly held down my frantically struggling body. Lu Wantong, you can't do this. Let me go. My miserable screams echoed through the garden. The cold blade sliced through the flesh on my arms. Chunks of it were thrown into the sky, attracting the flock of eagles to swoop down and feed. Intense pain and extreme terror engulfed me. My vision went black, and I completely passed out. Waking up again, I was still in the hospital. My whole body was wrapped in bandages. Severe pain was everywhere. She was actually still sitting by the bed. The moment I opened my eyes, before I could even feel the relief of surviving a disaster, I heard her cold voice sound. "AF has received a lot of criticism and attacks online because of your flesh-cutting incident. You need to host a live stream to clarify to the public and say that you voluntarily cut your flesh to feed the eagles, to thank him for chanting sutras for your mother and releasing her soul, and that the eagles came because of his merit." I simply couldn't believe my ears. I was cut all over, covered in wounds. She stayed here, and the first thing she did was not to care about my injuries, but to rush to clear the name of her sweetheart, reputation. "I won't do it." My voice was hoarse, her face darkened, her tone carrying full threat. "It's not up to you to refuse. Think about your mother's belongings." I closed my eyes in despair, tears silently sliding down. She could always accurately pinch my fatal weakness. Soon, the assistant set up the equipment. The global live stream began. My face was as pale as a ghost. Repeating the words she ordered me to say to the camera, I voluntarily cut my flesh to feed the eagles, to thank Mr. Pei for chanting sutras for my mother. The resulting karmic reward has nothing to do with him. The live stream comment section instantly exploded. All kinds of nasty insults and doubts scrolled frantically. Looking at those scrolling words, my eyes were red, but I couldn't shed any more tears. The moment the live stream ended, I couldn't hold it back anymore. I suddenly dashed out of bed, threw myself into the bathroom, and started vomiting violently, as if I was going to throw up all my internal organs. I looked up with tear-blurred eyes, looking through the mirror at her who followed me in, my voice utterly shattered. "Are you satisfied now?" She looked at my wretched, painful state, froze for a moment. A trace of imperceptible strangeness flashed in her eyes, but was quickly suppressed. She looked away, her tone still cold and hard. "You have to understand me. Afan is the person I love now. I won't let him suffer any grievance." Hearing these words, I actually felt numb. Even my tears had dried up. Just as she was about to say something, her phone rang. It was Pei Fan calling. I don't know what was said on the other end. Her tone immediately became nervous and gentle. "Okay, don't be afraid. I'll be right back." Hanging up the phone, she said to me, "Afe is feeling a bit unwell over there. I'm going back to check on him. Take good care of yourself." After saying that, she actually turned and left, without the slightest lingering attachment. I looked at her back, only feeling incredibly ridiculous and pathetic. Over the next few days, I took care of myself entirely. I finally managed to endure until I was discharged and went home. The butler happened to bring back the dog I had previously boarded at the pet hospital. He sent it back. It was a golden retriever I had kept for many years, named Ping. It was one of the few sources of warmth in my gloomy life. Pinguin rubbed against me affectionately, making whimpering sounds of comfort. I hugged it, feeling a long-lost trace of warmth. I felt my body was extremely weak, and wanted to nourish it, so I asked the servant to stew a bowl of chicken soup for me. I had just taken 2 sips, when Pei Fan appeared like a cat-smelling fish. He looked at that bowl of chicken soup, instantly glared angrily, and said sternly, "You, Beacon, how can you eat chicken? How many times have I said, all living things have souls. All beings are equal. Eating meat is killing. It is a sin. You come with me to the Buddhist hall immediately to repent and atone for your sins." Saying this, he came forward to grab me. My long-suppressed anger and hatred instantly erupted. I fiercely threw off his hand, raised my hand and slapped him hard across the face. "Get lost." I was trembling all over with anger. "Lu Wantang can tolerate you, but I cannot. Can you stay away from me? Just seeing you makes me sick." He covered his face, looking at me in disbelief. Then, grievance and anger surged in his eyes. "Gu Baiken, how dare you hit me? I am doing this for your own good. Killing and taking lives creates heavy evil karma. I know abstaining from meat is not easy, but you must persevere." "I can't persevere." I sternly interrupted him, and gave him a hard push. Get the hell away from me, pushed by me like this. He let out a cry, stumbled and fell to the ground. His forehead happened to hit the sharp corner of the flower stand nearby, and blood instantly poured out. Right at this moment, footsteps came from the door. Lu Wantong had returned. With one glance, she saw Pei Fan with a bleeding forehead, sitting slumped on the ground, and me standing aside, pale but with eyes full of anger. What's going on? Her face instantly darkened. She quickly stepped forward to help him up. He leaned into her embrace, not forgetting to show off the wound on his forehead. He haltingly explained the whole story, and added at the end, Wantang, I just didn't want to see him commit the sin of killing. It was me being too anxious. My method was wrong. Don't blame Bai. It's just that his temper is truly like rotten wood that cannot be carved. She swept a cold glance at me, and said to the servants, help Afon upstairs first, and call the doctor to treat his wound. She paused, and added, I will have a good talk with Bai. He nodded, and was helped away, waiting until his figure disappeared at the top of the stairs. Her gaze completely turned cold. She looked at Pingan, wagging its tail nearby, completely unaware of what had happened, and ordered the bodyguards, dispose of this dog. I felt as if struck by lightning, desperately threw myself over to hug Ping, screaming in terror. Lu Wantang, you can't touch him. Pingan is my dog. No, I beg you, I was wrong. I will never talk back to him again. Please, don't touch my dog. She remained completely unmoved, her eyes ruthless. This is the price for you striking him. If you dare to bully Afon again next time, it won't be as simple as just a dog. The bodyguards forcefully took from my arms the continuously whining Ping. No, Pingan, give me back my Ping. I struggled with all my might, but was held down tightly. Not long after, a miserable dog's bark came from the backyard, and then returned to dead silence. My whole body froze in place, my pupils dilated, as if even my breathing had stopped. Immediately after, an even more devastating scene occurred. The bodyguards actually dragged Pingan's corpse to the kitchen. Not long after, a steaming bowl of meat broth was served in front of me. A heavy, gamey meat smell rushed at my face. My stomach churned violently. I backed away in horror. Take it away. I won't drink it. Take it away. She lost her patience, and directly gave the bodyguards a look. The bodyguards stepped forward, roughly pinched my jaw, and applied a sudden force. With a light click, the severe pain of my jaw being dislocated hit me. I cried, tears of pain, but couldn't close my mouth. That bowl of warm meat broth was forcefully poured down my throat. The broth mixed with tears, and snot smeared all over my face. I collapsed on the floor, coughing violently and dry heaving. My heart, liver, spleen, lungs, and kidneys all felt like they were being shredded to pieces. I wished I were dead. She just watched coldly like that, as if watching an irrelevant performance. Remember this taste. Next time, don't challenge my bottom line. I completely broke down. That very night, I developed a high fever, and fell severely ill, unable to get up. In my groggy state, he came again. He was holding a few homemade black pills, insisting on feeding them to me. Mr. Gu, seeing you so sick, I really can't bear it. These are pills I specially prepared for you, using many precious medicinal herbs. You will get well soon after taking them. I kept my lips tightly sealed, absolutely refusing to eat them. He seemed to sigh, and then said to the servant nearby, help him a bit. The servant immediately stepped forward, forcefully pried open my mouth, and stuffed the pills in. Not long after the pills entered my stomach, I felt a severe, knife-twisting pain in my abdomen. Cold sweat instantly soaked through my clothes. I couldn't help but curl up, and vomited a mouthful of black blood. It hurts. Take me to the hospital, I pleaded weakly. Just then, he came back. He immediately went up to her, and said aggrievedly, I kindly gave Mr. Gu the special pills to eat, but he seems even more unwell. He insists on going to the hospital. Maybe he still doesn't believe me, and has a grudge against me. I think it's better if I leave. She immediately pulled him back, her face darkening. She looked at me, has good intentions. If you insist on being so unappreciative, that wasn't medicine. He is harming me. My voice trembled with pain. Enough. She didn't believe it at all, her eyes full of disgust. Seems you are not sick enough. Still having the energy to frame people? Lock him back in his room. Without my permission, he is not allowed out. And no calling a doctor. I was roughly dragged back to my room, and locked up. Severe pain tormented me. I started vomiting blood, my consciousness getting blurred. Finally, it was the old butler who couldn't bear to watch. Secretly invited a familiar private doctor to prescribe medicine, barely saving my life. The next day, I had just recovered a bit, when he came again. Looking at me, he smiled smugly. I told you my medicine is very effective. right? Aren't you getting better now? She also came over and coldly warned me. Afan is merciful. He would never harm you. Don't let down his good intentions in the future. I was exhausted, unable to say a single word. A few days later, he wanted to go, do 10 good deeds a day again. This time he insisted on taking me along. Mr. Gus' karma is too heavy. His hostility is deep. He needs to do more good deeds to dissolve his bad karma. He said so. I refused to go. Her bodyguards directly invited me into the car, coldly conveying President Lu's orders. Do not spoil Mr. P.A.'s mood. The first 9 deeds were nothing more than feeding cats and dogs, donating money, and releasing animals. When it came to the last deed, he gave money to a group of ragged beggars, as usual. Those beggars, however, exchanged glances, pushed the money away, their eyes wandering over my and his waist and abdomen. Sir, we don't want money. Our brother has a terminal illness and needs a kidney transplant, but we don't have a kidney source. Can you 2 gentlemen give us a kidney? He immediately took a step back, put his palms together, and showed a troubled look. Umataba, I am a person of Buddhism. My body and mind are already dedicated to Buddha. Sinful, sinful. But looking at the pitiful state of those beggars, he sighed again, his gaze suddenly turning to me, who was pale-faced nearby. Seeing you are truly pitiful, plagued by illness, it is indeed a suffering. How about this? Let this friend of mine help you resolve this. It will surely be a meritorious deed. After saying that, he violently pushed me into the middle of those beggars, while he turned and got into the car, and started the vehicle. Payfan. My terrified and angry roars were drowned out by the beggars. I struggled and fought desperately, but was fiercely surrounded by those beggars, and dragged towards a dark alley nearby. In despair, I don't know where I got the strength. I fiercely poked a beggar's eye, took the opportunity to break free, and ran for my life towards the main road outside the alley. I ran blindly, and just as I rushed out of the alley entrance, blinding headlights suddenly flared up, accompanied by sudden screeching brakes and a massive impact force. I was knocked, flying like a kite with a broken string, and fell heavily onto the cold road surface. Blood quickly spread out from under my body. Before losing consciousness, I dimly saw that stopped car, and sitting in the driver's seat was a cold-faced Payfan. Waking up again, I was in the hospital again. My whole body ached as if it had fallen apart, and she was sitting by the bed. The first thing was not caring about my injuries, but handing me a letter of forgiveness. Sign it. Her tone was unquestionable. Although Afan accidentally hit you, he didn't do it on purpose. He is also very guilty now. I will not let him go to jail. I looked at her cold face, and the last shred of hope in my heart was completely destroyed. I spoke with difficulty, my voice hoarse. I want sign. He did it on purpose. He first pushed me out, then drove to hit me. This is attempted murder. He must accept legal punishment. Her face instantly became terrifyingly gloomy, stubborn and incorrigible. She lost her patience, directly ordering the bodyguards, take him away, lock him in the sauna room. When he is willing to sign, then let him out. That was a specially built sauna room in the villa. The steamer at its highest temperature was enough to cause dehydration and suffocation. I was dragged inside. High temperature and lack of oxygen instantly enveloped me. Sweat was evaporated the moment it flowed out. My skin felt like it was burning. Breathing became extremely difficult. My lungs ached as if they were bursting. The fear of death seized me once again, just as my consciousness was about to scatter, and I thought I was really going to die here. I finally compromised. Ill sign. Ill sign. Only then did she have someone let me out. I was like a dehydrated fish, slumped on the ground, coughing and panting violently. She shoved a pen into my hand, watched me sign my name, and then said, AFN is in a very bad mood because of this. I am going to take him out to relax. You stay quietly at home these few days. Don't cause any more trouble. After saying that, she left again without any attachment. I lay on the cold ground, looking at her resolute back, without even the strength to breathe. My heart was dead as ashes. That's all there is to it. A week later, she still hadn't returned, but I received a message from the lawyer. The divorce procedures are completed. You can collect your divorce certificate. I went to the Civil Affairs Bureau alone, and got that dark red divorce certificate. Looking at the cold gold-stamped words on it, I actually felt a trace of relief. Returning to the villa, I silently started packing my luggage. I didn't have many things. One suitcase held everything. On the day of departure, I called a car to the airport. In the airport departure hall, I happened to see her holding Payfan's hand. Walking out from the international arrivals passage, her face carried a rare, relaxed sweetness. tilting her head to say something to him. He also had a face full of gentle smiles. The two seemed to have just returned from a vacation in some romantic country. Looking at their intimate manner, and then looking at the divorce certificate in my hand, I suddenly felt it was incredibly ironic. Doesn't she really like global live streaming? Fine, I will satisfy her. I took out my phone, logged into a global social platform, and turned on the live stream feature. The camera pointed at myself, and that bright red divorce certificate in my hand. Starting the live stream, a few viewers trickled in. I took a deep breath, and pointed the camera first at my palm, at that dark red divorce certificate. The gold-stamped words, divorce certificate, were particularly glaring under the light. My voice was as calm as if telling someone else's story, carrying a power that penetrated people's hearts. Hello everyone, I am Gu, the ex-husband of Lu Wantang of Lu Group. Today I want to chat with everyone about what I have experienced in my 3-year marriage with Lu. 3 months ago, my mother had a car accident and urgently needed 1 million for surgery. Lu Wantang handed over the family's financial power to a man claiming to be a Buddhist disciple, Pei Fan. When I went to him for money, he said, cutting open the body violates natural harmony, and it's better not to do the surgery. He also said he would go to the hospital to stop the surgery, claiming that if my mother's karma wasn't cleared, forcing the surgery would hinder her passing to Pure Land. When saying these words, my whole body trembled uncontrollably, my voice choking up at times. I opened the screenshot of the hospital payment record on my phone. The date clearly marked as that day, while Pei Fan was supposedly chanting and praying in his bedroom, watching my mother miss the best rescue time. At this time, the number of people in the livestream was increasing, and people in the comments were all expressing outrage. The day after my mother died, Pei Fan told me he had sent the body for a sky burial. Speaking of this, my voice trembled slightly, but I still maintained my composure. But community surveillance captured him having workers transport the body in the early morning. Neighbors also heard my argument with him. These recordings and evidence I have already uploaded. Because of him, my mother's remains are still missing. The number of people in the live stream soared rapidly. Comments started flooding the screen. I continued speaking through my tears. On the 7th day after my mother's death, I found my room full of snakes. It was Pei Fan who put them there, saying snakes could help me calm my mind. When Lu Wantang came back, she just told me to get used to it. As screenshots of evidence were shown one by one, the number of people in the live stream exceeded 3 million. I raised my hand and wiped my face, revealing the scars on my arms that had not yet fully faded. Half a month ago, at Pei Fan's birthday banquet, Lu Wantang forced me to go to Jai Temple to pray for a handwritten diamond sutra. I kneeled for a day and a night, and walked barefoot across a path of burning coals. My feet were a bloody mess. At the birthday banquet, Pei Fan said eagles circling was an auspicious sign, and wanted to cut flesh to feed the eagles. The two of them actually ordered bodyguards to hold me down, cut my flesh, and threw it to the flock of eagles. A week ago, I drank a bowl of chicken soup. Pei Fan said I was killing and creating evil karma. After Lu Wantang returned, she not only had bodyguards dispose of my dog, Pinguin, but also forced me to drink soup stewed with Pinguin's meat. I took out a photo of myself and Pinguin. In the photo, a person and a dog were smiling brightly at the camera, but I was crying so hard I couldn't catch my breath. Pinguin accompanied me for 5 years, but became a sacrifice for Lu Wantang to please Pei Fan. Within half an hour, the number of people in the live stream exceeded 5 million. Topics like Lu Wantang cold wife, Pei Fan hypocritical Buddhist disciple, Lu Wantang Pei Fan adulterous couple, quickly topped trending searches in multiple countries. The comments section was full of insults directed at the two. Meanwhile, Lu Group's stock price plummeted. It crashed drastically within half an hour. Partners urgently sent letters to suspend cooperation. Watching the heat of discussion gradually rise, I knew my goal had been achieved. I just wanted to let the whole world see how vicious these two people are. Thinking of my deceased mother, and that little dog who died tragically, I wiped my tears dry, turned off the live stream, and blocked all her contact information. After backing up the evidence in my phone, I deleted the content related to the past. Dragging my suitcase, I boarded a flight to a small southern coastal city. When the plane landed, the sea breeze carrying a salty and damp breath rushed at my face. I rented a first-floor apartment with a small garden. Every day I painted some small pictures at home, and pruned the plants, watching the sunlight sprinkle on the petals. I finally showed a long-lost smile. When she stepped into the villa, the air still retained a faint scent of my presence, but this trace of familiarity was quickly shattered by the phone screen handed over by the butler. In the live stream replay, every incident I calmly narrated was like an ice-quenched knife, fiercely stabbing into her proud sense of control. Fabrication. It's all fabrication. She violently smashed the phone onto the marble floor. The cracked patterns on the screen were like her out-of-control emotions at this moment. Ear-piercing crashing sounds instantly rang out in the study. Priceless antique vases were swept onto the floor by her arm. Celadon shards splattered everywhere. Her eyes were bloodshot and burning, her chest heaving violently. She simply couldn't calm down. He did it on purpose. Even after divorcing, he still won't let it go. He won't be satisfied until he ruins me. When the assistant rushed over, she was already furious beyond control. Public relations. Immediately, her voice was hoarse, carrying an unquestionable command. Delete all negative information. Issue a statement saying that Gu Baiken, dissatisfied with the marriage, is maliciously smearing us, and all his claims are sheer nonsense. But the actions of the PR team were far from matching the speed of public opinion fermentation. The statement was just issued when it was drowned by netizens' mockery. Some people posted the screenshots of various records I had shown. Some copied the recordings played in the live stream, where her voice was clearly identifiable. The speed of deleting posts couldn't keep up with the frequency of new topics popping up. Even partners sent strictly worded letters, suspending cooperation. The assistant, sweating profusely, reported, "President Liu, the PR has completely failed. Now netizens are all waiting for us to produce counter-evidence." She slumped in the leather chair, her knuckles turning white from clenching tightly. She stared at the gloomy sky outside the window, rage surging in her heart, yet inexplicably accompanied by a trace of confusion. She couldn't figure it out. That man who once protected her in his arms, who felt heartbreak even when she frowned, how could he become so ruthless now? The tenderness and sacrifices in 3 years of marriage, could they really not outweigh the resentment of a divorce? Just as she was feeling irritated, he, wearing a plain long robe, walked into the study with soft steps. His eye sockets were red. Seeing her wretched appearance, he immediately stepped forward and pulled her into his arms, his voice carrying grievance. "Wantang, don't be angry. Baiken must have misunderstood me. He just got divorced. He is feeling terrible inside. Maybe he is just saying nonsense because he is too sad. Don't blame him." His fingertips gently stroked her tense brow, his eyes full of concern. "It's all my fault. If I had yielded to him more back then, maybe things wouldn't have reached this point." This display of weakness was like a temporary tranquilizer, letting her tense nerves relax slightly. She raised her hand to embrace his shoulder, her tone easing a bit. "Maybe Juju Bike will understand your good intentions in a few days." But she didn't see the flash of viciousness in his lowered eyes. That night, taking advantage of her working in the study, he secretly called over his trusted aide and instructed in a low voice, "Delete the backup of the Sky burial video on my phone, and all chat records with the hospital staff. Don't leave a single trace." After the person left, he secretly clenched his teeth, inevitably feeling panicked in his heart due to my exposure. This son of a bitch actually dared to scheme against me. Late at night, while she was sound asleep, he sneaked into her study. He found the folder storing the documents, his fingers tapping rapidly on her computer keyboard. Just as he was about to completely delete it, his hand slipped due to panic. He transferred a copy of the attachment that should have been deleted to the cloud backup. He didn't notice this flaw. Confirmed the file disappeared, quickly turned off the computer, and sneaked out of the study. But in the room, the faint notification of successful cloud synchronization flashed in the dark. The next morning, he looked at the public opinion situation that still hadn't improved, and rubbed his temples in frustration. He brought a cup of warm ginseng tea, and softly advised "How about we ignore the voices online for now? People will forget after a while." She took the teacup, the doubts about him in her heart temporarily suppressed. She thought of the losses from the plummeting stock price, thought of the disrupted plans, and her hatred towards me deepened a bit. She stared at the bottom of the cup, muttering to herself, "How could he treat me like this? Is our 3 years of affection really not worth mentioning?" Hearing this name, his face instantly darkened, but neither of them knew. At this moment, those mistakenly saved files in the cloud system were like a planted bomb, waiting for a certain moment in the future to completely shatter the illusion he meticulously maintained. The wind in the small coastal city always carries a salty, warm breath. Looking at the windowsill of the apartment, my mood always relaxes. I also stopped thinking about the past. I used the remaining savings from the divorce to open a small flower shop on the street corner. Hand-woven wind chimes hung on the glass door. Pushing the door open, it makes a crisp sound, which is my favorite sound. In the shop, There are no precious exotic flowers and plants from the Liu family villa, just some pleasantly growing succulents. Every morning I go to the flower market to select fresh flowers, come back to prune branches and leaves, arrange bouquets, and never tire of it. Once in the Liu family, even a water cup was handed by a servant. Whatever I wanted to eat, I just told the butler, even if it was from the ends of the earth. I could eat it, but now, I wear gloves to tidy up flower thorns, sit on the rattan chair by the window when tired, drink a cup of warm lemon water, watch pedestrians slowly walk by on the street. This kind of life doesn't have the extravagance and luxury of the past, but it makes my nerves, tense for 3 years, gradually relax. At night, I can finally get a good sleep, and during this time, there is a regular customer named Lin Cheng, who often visits. The first time she came to the flower shop was a weekend afternoon. She wore a clean white shirt, sleeves rolled up to her forearms, revealing her wrists. When she entered the door, the wind chimes jingled. "Hello, I want a bouquet of sunflowers." Her voice was gentle, her gaze sweeping over the flowers filling the shop, and finally landed on me, who was looking down pruning roses. "The quality of flowers in your shop is very good. I want to buy a bouquet to bring over to the sick children in the department. They like them very much." I looked up, froze for a moment, then nodded. "Okay, wait a moment." I turned to get the flowers. My fingertip accidentally pricked by a rose thorn. A bright red drop of blood immediately seeped out. I subconsciously froze in place, preparing to casually wipe it off, but was stopped by him. "Don't move." He quickly walked over, and from the pocket of his white coat, took out a small bottle of iodophor and a band. When he crouched down, he carried a faint smell of disinfectant, but it wasn't repulsive. "I'm a pediatrician, used to carrying these with me." He didn't press me on why I was flustered, just carefully pinched my fingertip, dipped a cotton swab in iodophor and wiped it gently, his movements as gentle as caring for fragile petals. I stood frozen in place, looking at his serious profile as he treated the wound. My heartbeat inexplicably sped up a bit. For the past half-year, I was trapped in the illusion of her gentleness, but she never showed me such meticulous tenderness. All done. He applied the band and smiled as he stood up. His gaze landed on the bouquet I just arranged. "The flowers in the shop are very beautiful, especially when you arrange them." He reminded me a few things about caring for the wound, then took the sunflowers, paid and softly said goodbye, and I stayed in place, my fingertips still retaining the warmth of his touch. In the following weeks, he would come to buy sunflowers punctually every week. Sometimes we would chat a few sentences. The topics always revolved around the weather in the small city. "The wind is strong by the sea today. Remember to close the windows properly when you close the shop." Sometimes he would chat with me about interesting things in the hospital. Yesterday there was a little kid who pinned a sunflower at the nurse's station, saying he wants the nurse sisters to be happy every day. Occasionally, he would also invite me to enjoy the seaside scenery together. Going to the seaside in the evening, you can see a very beautiful sunset glow. You can go see it if you have time. He never asked too much, nor did he pry. Just like a regular customer, sharing the trivial warmth of life. I gradually let down my guard. One time when he came to buy flowers, I took the initiative to speak. Today there was a little kid, who bought a small bouquet of daisies with his pocket money, saying he wanted to give it to his mom, and also said his mom wouldn't be angry when she sees the flowers. When I said this, the corners of my mouth carried a faint smile, and my eyes were brighter than before. He stopped in his tracks, listened attentively, and then smiled and responded. "There is a little girl in our department, who never cooperates with treatment when hospitalized. Until I brought her a sunflower, only then was she willing to take her medicine. Yesterday she was discharged, and specially drew a picture of a sunflower and gave it to me, saying when she gets well, she will come with her mom to your shop to buy flowers." Sunlight spilled in through the glass window, falling between the two of us. The air was filled with the fresh fragrance of flowers, and a faint warmth. I looked at his genial eyes, and suddenly felt, maybe I don't have to always live in the shadow of the past. This small coastal city, this small flower shop, and this person in front of me willing to listen to me share small things, are slowly piecing together what I once dared not hope for. A life truly my own. When he left, the wind chimes rang again. I watched his back disappear at the street corner, looked down and touched the band-aid on my hand, then turned and continued arranging bouquets. The smile at the corner of my mouth was more genuine than before. The evening rainstorm in this small coastal city came unexpectedly. Bean-sized raindrops smashed against the flower shop glass, splashing tiny droplets of water. The flowers quickly gathered into streams on the ground. Only when closing the shop did I realize I forgot an umbrella. Standing at the door, looking at the pouring rain, my brows slightly furrowed. It's hard to hail a car at this time. Running back in the rain will definitely cause a cold. I crossed my arms, just pondering whether to wait for the rain to lessen, when a familiar voice suddenly came from behind. Didn't bring an umbrella? I turned and saw him wearing a white coat, holding an umbrella in his hand. A few strands of hair on his forehead were wet from the rain. He had just come out from working overtime at the hospital, and happened to see me in a dilemma while passing by the flower shop. Without waiting for my answer, he handed the umbrella over. When his fingertips touched my hand, they carried a trace of coolness from after the rain. You use this umbrella. I still have to go back to the hospital for overtime tonight. I can just run back. Saying that, he took a step back. Raindrops had already fallen on his shoulder, ironing out a small patch of dark water stain. How can that be? You will catch a cold. I hurriedly pushed the umbrella back, but he pressed my hand down. It's fine, I'm in good health. He smiled, his tone carrying an undeniable gentleness. You take it, just return it to me when you come to buy flowers tomorrow. After saying that, without waiting for me to decline again, he turned and dashed into the rain. His white figure was quickly blurred by the dense raindrops. I stood at the door holding that umbrella, watching his back disappear at the street corner. It was as if something gently bumped my heart, warm and melting. The next morning, when he came to buy sunflowers, I had already boiled hot ginger tea in the shop early. I handed over the thermos cup containing ginger tea, my fingertips slightly hot. Thank you for the umbrella yesterday. You must have frozen running back in the rain. Drink this. Drinking it can dispel the cold. He froze for a moment. When he took the thermos cup, a warm touch came from his palm. He unscrewed the lid, and the aroma of ginger tea wafted out. He took a small sip, and warmth spread from his throat all the way to the bottom of his heart. Thank you. It's very good. He looked up at me, smile hidden in his eyes. Much better than the ginger tea from the hospital cafeteria. I felt a little embarrassed by his words, looked down and arranged the daisies in front of me, but the corners of my mouth couldn't help but rise slightly. On the weekend, he sent a message, inviting me to go for a walk by the sea. I hesitated for a moment, but still agreed. I changed into light clothes. When I arrived at the agreed seaside, he was already waiting for me on the beach, holding 2 ice cream cones in his hand. For you, vanilla flavor. He handed over the cone, his eyes bright. We slowly walked along the coastline. The waves washed over our ankles time and time again, carrying a slightly cool touch. He occasionally talked about interesting things in the hospital. For example, which kid secretly hid candy under the pillow, and after being discovered by the nurse, still defended himself in a childish voice. Or, for example, the nurse sisters in the department secretly prepared surprises for the doctor on duty. I listened quietly, occasionally chiming in a few sentences. My mood gradually became light. When walking to a spot next to some reefs, I suddenly stopped in my tracks. My gaze looked toward the distant sea level, my voice carrying a trace of imperceptible choking. My mother used to like the sea very much. She always said when I graduate, I would bring her to the seaside to watch the sunset. This was the first time I took the initiative to mention my mother. Those longings suppressed at the bottom of my heart, under the blowing of the sea breeze, finally couldn't help but surge out. He didn't interrupt me, just slowed his pace, stood next to the reef with me, and listened quietly, waiting until my voice gradually calmed down. He softly spoke, his tone gentle but firm. Your mother definitely wants you to live well, carry her expectations, and take a good look at every sunset. A simple sentence, yet like a warm current, instantly smoothed out the wrinkles at the bottom of my heart. I turned my head, looked at his serious eyes, my eye sockets slightly red, but I gently nodded. From then on, he frequently invited me out on his days off. We would go to the park to feed pigeons. Watching a flock of white pigeons land at our feet to peck, I would occasionally tease him. Even the pigeons are pickier eaters than you. We would also go to the bookstore on the corner, both holding a book, sitting by the window, occasionally looking up and exchanging a glance. We could understand each other's feelings. Sometimes he would also come to the flower shop to help, researching new bouquet arrangements with me. He told me, roses paired with baby's breath are more suitable for a lover, gentle and romantic. The smiles on my face became more and more frequent. The gloom in the depths of my eyes also gradually dissipated. I started to actively share trivial daily things about the flower shop with him, and would also talk about desserts I newly learned. I tried making cookies yesterday. Next time, I'll bring some for you to taste. The atmosphere between us became more and more intimate, as if there was an invisible thread tying us tightly together. One evening, when he walked me back to the flower shop, looking at my profile as I arranged the bouquet. He softly said, "Can I come often to help you mind the shop in the future?" I looked up and met his gentle eyes, froze for a moment, and then smiled and nodded. "Sure." The wind chimes rang softly at the door. The afterglow of the sunset spilled on us, stretching our shadows very long. The air was full of the fresh fragrance of flowers and a faint sweetness. In the Lou Group's meeting room, the atmosphere was so oppressive it could be wrung out. Representatives of the partners pushed documents suspending cooperation. In front of Lou Wantang, their tone tough. "President Lou, the live stream incident has seriously affected the reputation of our brand. If you cannot provide a reasonable explanation, we can only terminate all cooperation." She sat at the head of the table, her fingertips unconsciously rubbing the cold tabletop, her face terrifyingly gloomy. The stock price continued to drop. In just 1 week, billions of market value evaporated. Panic spread within the company, and external doubts surged in like a tide. She originally thought my live stream was just a momentary farce, and as long as public opinion was suppressed, it would calm down. But the current situation far exceeded her expectations. After the meeting, she returned to her office and took off her coat in irritation. On one hand, it was frustration over company affairs, and on the other hand, it was actually panic over my departure. She clicked open the live stream replay on her phone. The scene of me calmly narrating the sky burial reappeared. The way I shed tears was like a thorn suddenly piercing her heart. She suddenly remembered back then Pei Fan's tone was full of compassion. He said Buddha had forgiven her. That mother had gone cleanly, and it was a good thing. But the details I described carried a spine-killing indifference. The contradiction between the two made her doubt him for the first time. Impossible, she muttered to herself, but couldn't suppress the doubts in the bottom of her heart. Afan is so kind. How could he do such a thing? But despite saying so, she still picked up her phone and dialed the assistant's number. Investigate Pei Fan's past. The more detailed the better, especially his experiences from 3 years ago. Also, on the day of Jiu Baiken's mother's car accident, all his whereabouts and call logs. The assistant was very efficient. 3 days later, a thick investigation report was placed in front of her. When she opened the report, her fingers trembled uncontrollably. The report clearly stated that he was not born into a Buddhist family, and the so-called spiritual cultivation experiences were all fabricated. 3 years ago, in Lin City, under the guise of chanting sutras to pray for blessings and ward off disasters, he defrauded an old person of their merit money. After being reported by family members, there is still a record at the local police station to this day. What shocked her even more was that on the day of my mother's car accident, he had made 2 calls to the hospital director. "Mrs. Gus surgery. Find a way to delay it for me." With a loud bang, her fist fiercely smashed onto the tabletop. Looking at the words on the report, the image of his usual gentle and compassionate appearance floated before her eyes. Comparing it with these cold pieces of evidence, she only felt a wave of nausea. That night, he walked into the study carrying tea as usual, but found that she wasn't smiling at him like before. She just sat on the sofa, looking at him with icy eyes. "Wantang, what's wrong? Is it company matters making you unhappy?" He stepped forward, wanting to pull her into his arms like usual, but was dodged as she turned sideways. He didn't answer, just casually mentioned, "These years we haven't met. Where have you been practicing your cultivation?" His body instantly stiffened. His eyes flickered for a moment, the hand holding the tea trembling slightly. He didn't dare to look into her eyes. His tone vague. "It's all in the past. Let's not mention it anymore." This guilty look completely confirmed her suspicions. She didn't press further, just said coldly, "Put the things down. I still have matters to handle." He looked at her indifferent profile, a surge of unease rising in his heart. Not daring to ask more, he could only obediently put it down, and turn to leave. After he left, she immediately sent a message to her assistant. "Continue investigating all of Pei Fan's past experiences." In the dead of night, she sat alone in the study, and dug out old photo albums. In the photos, I was wearing a white suit, smiling brightly, while she held my hand, her eyes full of deep affection. There were also photos from when we went traveling. I had my arm around her shoulder watching the sunset, a faint smile on my lips. There was even one of when I made her hangover soup. My cheeks flushed red from the steam. Scene after scene of happy moments flashed before her eyes. And what she did to me later forms a sharp contrast. What on earth have I done? She covered her face, her voice full of remorse. She remembered my past goodness, how I never minded her temper, always silently taking care of her life. When she was sick, I stayed by her bed all night without closing my eyes. I even, to support her work, gave up my favorite major, but she was confused by his disguise, and personally destroyed our marriage. She personally pushed the man whose heart and eyes were once completely filled with her to a dead end. Remorse drowned her like a tide. She picked up her phone, found my number, her finger hovering over the dial button, but hesitated to press it for a long time. She knew that the harm she caused me couldn't be made up for with a simple sorry. The moonlight outside the window spilled in through the glass, illuminating the photo album in the study, and also illuminating the pain and despair in her eyes. After this incident, she decided to come find me, but I had already deleted all her contact info long ago. When the assistant found out my news, she didn't even have time to arrange the company's affairs. The moment she learned my address, she carried a heart full of remorse, and hurriedly rushed to the small coastal city. She sat by the window of her private jet, her fingertips repeatedly stroking the phone lock screen. The photo of her and me. She had imagined the scene of our reunion countless times in her mind, but never thought it would be such a glaring scene. At the flower shop door, she stood at the street corner and saw me from afar wearing an apron, arranging bouquets with a woman. The woman was wearing a clean white shirt, exactly the pediatrician Lin Chengyu that the assistant mentioned before, holding a bouquet of sunflowers in her hand. Not knowing what she said, I lowered my head and laughed. Sunlight fell on my face. That smile was gentle and genuine. It was a look she had never seen on my face in the later stages. At that moment, extreme jealousy wrapped around her heart like vines, making her almost lose her mind. She rushed forward quickly, disregarding the stares of passersby, and reached out, trying to grab my wrist. Baiken, I was startled by the sudden voice, and the rose branch in my hand dropped to the ground. When I saw clearly that the person was her, the smile on my face instantly disappeared, my eyes turning completely cold, like a layer of ice had formed. I forcefully threw off her hand, with a force so strong it stunned her for a moment. Lu Wantang, what are you trying to do coming here? My voice was ice, without a trace of warmth. We are already divorced. Stop pestering me. After saying that, I turned and grabbed Lin Chengyu's arm, walked quickly into the flower shop, and suddenly locked the front door from the inside. Lin Chengyu looked back at her, with wariness in her eyes, but didn't say much. Just gently patted the back of my hand, silently comforting me. She was locked outside, looking at my indifferent profile behind the glass door. Her heart felt like it was fiercely gripped, hurting so much she couldn't breathe. She knocked on the door forcefully by, "Please open the door. I have something to say to you. I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have believed Pei Fan. I shouldn't have been so bad to you. Will you give me one more chance?" She knocked on the door over and over, apologized over and over, her voice turning from eager at first to hoarse. Passersby all looked sideways, pointing fingers at her, but she didn't care at all, just stubbornly stood outside the door, hoping I could look at her one more time. However, the flower shop door remained tightly shut, without any response from inside. Time passed bit by bit, from afternoon to dusk. The setting sun stretched her shadow very long, making her look exceptionally pathetic. Her hands became red and swollen from repeatedly knocking on the door, and her throat was so hoarse she could barely speak. But the person behind the door still made no sound. When I got off work and went home, she still thought of stepping forward, but was stopped by Lin Cheng. "Ms. Lu, please leave." Lin Chengyu's voice was gentle but firm. "Baiken doesn't want to see you. Pestering like this will only make him more uncomfortable." She looked at how Lin Chengyu stood protectively in front of me, and looked at my consistently cold eyes. She finally understood that she had long lost the right to approach me. She opened her mouth, wanting to say something, but found she couldn't make a sound from her throat. In the end, she could only watch helplessly as we left together, our backs gradually disappearing at the street corner. On the way, I remained silent all along, my fingertips still trembling slightly. Lin Chengyu didn't pry into my past with her, just slowed her pace, accompanying me to walk slowly. When we arrived downstairs at my apartment, she stopped walking, and said softly, "If you need help, tell me anytime, whether it's regarding Ms. Lu, or anything else, I will help you." I looked up, looked at her genial eyes, and that lake in my heart, stirred up by her, gradually calmed down. I actually felt my nose tingle, nodded, and said softly, "Thank you, Chenyu," watching me walk into the apartment building. Only then did she turn to leave. I stood by the window, watching her back disappear under the streetlights, holding a cup of warm milk in my hands. For the first time I felt, so being protected by someone feels this secure. In a corner of my heart, something was quietly sprouting, growing slowly with expectations for the future. Ever since seeing me, the longing in her heart seemed to be ignited. She finally understood that from beginning to end, she only loved me. She stood in front of the breakfast shop opposite the flower shop, carrying the newly bought hot porridge and buns in her hand, her eyes fixed tightly on the flower shop's closed door. Ever since being rejected last time, she acted just like when she first pursued me, appearing here punctually every day, trying to win me back in a clumsy way. When I pushed the shop door and came out, what I saw was such a scene. She was wearing an expensive haute couture suit, yet holding cheap breakfast standing by the road, looking completely out of place. My brows instantly furrowed, my eyes as cold as ice. I directly bypassed her, without the slightest pause. "Bacon, the breakfast is still hot. Eat a bit before getting busy." She quickly followed, her voice carrying a cautious eagerness to please. My steps didn't stop, leaving only a cold sentence. "No need. President Liu should focus her mind on her own company. Don't waste time coming here." In the following days, she still appeared punctually every day. In the morning, she would deliver breakfast. At night, she'd wait at the shop door to hand over late-night snacks. Even when she saw the flower shop needed to move newly arrived flowers, she would proactively step forward, disregarding getting her suit dirty. She bent down to carry the heavy cardboard boxes. Seeing stains on the shop floor, she would also silently pick up a mop to clean. No matter what she did, I always turned a blind eye to her, unwilling to say even an extra word. Until one evening, when Lin Chengyu came to buy sunflowers, she saw her wandering outside again. I was arranging bouquets with an awful expression. Lin Chengyu walked to my side and asked softly, "Do you need my help?" I looked up, a flash of exhaustion in my eyes. "Can you make her stop coming? I don't want to see her." Lin Chengyu turned towards her. "Didn't you hear Baikon's words? He doesn't want to see you. Your coming only adds to his troubles, making him more disgusted by you." Her face became uglier and uglier, but in the end, she didn't refute, just left in silence. That night, I finally didn't have to face that suffocating figure anymore. My heart felt a rare bit of ease, but she hadn't truly given up. A few days later, the small city was hit by a typhoon. Fierce winds carrying torrential rain howled and I was in the shop arranging bouquets, when suddenly I heard a loud crash. The glass door facing the street was shattered by the wind. Rainwater instantly flooded into the shop, splashing the flowers all over the floor. I frantically tried to block the gap, but was forced back repeatedly by the fierce wind. Just at this moment, the shop door was pushed open violently. She rushed in, completely drenched. Her shirt was soaked by rain, clinging tightly to her skin. Her hair was an absolute mess. "Why are you here?" My voice carried a trace of imperceptible surprise, but mostly resistance. She didn't answer, rushing straight to the glass door, using her own body to block the surging rainwater. "Quick, move the flowers inside. Don't let them get ruined by the rain." Her hands were cut by the glass. Blood mixed with rainwater dripped down her fingertips, dyeing her white shirt cuffs red, but she acted as if she felt no pain, still focused on rescuing the bouquets. I watched her busy figure, and in a daze remembered that kidnapping in college. She was just like this then, rushing in covered in injuries, to save me, with only my safety in her eyes. But the next second, those bad memories fiercely surged into my heart. Looking at her reckless appearance right now, I suddenly felt a wave of nausea, my stomach churning violently. Back then, she could risk her life for me, yet later, she could subject me to all kinds of humiliation for him. This kind of goodness was nothing but her momentary whim of charity. Once the novelty faded, only cruelty remained. "Enough. Get out." I suddenly spoke, my voice carrying a suppressed tremble, yet incredibly firm. Her movements instantly froze. She turned around, her face still stained with rainwater and dust, her eyes full of surprise. "Beacon, how come you?" I sneered, my eyes full of pain. "Luan, do you still remember how you treated me back then? You let me get bitten by snakes, forced me to cut my flesh to feed eagles, watched me drink Pingin's meat broth, and even when my mom was dying, you helped pay Fan stop the surgery. What are you treating me like before for now?" My voice became more and more agitated, tears welling up uncontrollably, but now it wasn't out of being moved, but because of anger and disgust. "Do you think doing these things now can offset the things you did to me? I tell you, impossible. The pain you gave me, I won't forget it in this lifetime." She looked at my tear-streaked face, her heart aching as if cut by a knife. She took a step forward, wanting to hold my hand, but was fiercely shaken off by me. "Don't touch me." I took a step back, my eyes full of disgust. "Just seeing you makes me feel sick. Get out immediately. Never appear in front of me again." She stood in place, looking at my resolute eyes, suddenly realizing that the affection she personally destroyed back then could never be salvaged no matter what. Rainwater kept pouring in, wetting her clothes. and also extinguishing her last sliver of hope. She opened her mouth, wanting to say something, but found she couldn't make a sound from her throat. She could only watch helplessly as I turned and walked into the back room. Never looking back, she dragged her heavy footsteps and left the flower shop in a sorry state. The typhoon outside the door was still howling, but it could no longer blow away the remorse and despair in her heart. Lu Wantang returned to the villa, out of her wits. Just as she sat down, the assistant rushed over, holding a tablet in his hand. With a solemn expression, "President Lu, we recovered some files from the company's cloud, mistakenly saved by PE Fan before." Lu Wantang took the tablet. The first thing popping up on the screen was a video. In the video, Pei Fan was wearing a plain long robe, standing on the desolate sky burial platform, harshly scolding the sky burial master. "Hurry up and process it. Don't waste time. If President Lu asks, just say this is Mrs. Gus Destiny." The sky burial master hesitated, unwilling to act. "It's a sin. Truly a sin." Seeing the other party dawdling, Pei Fan even stepped forward and gave a push. His eyes were full of impatience, without a trace of his usual compassionate look. Immediately following were the chat records between Pei Fan and the hospital director. The text clearly showed, "Mrs. Gus' surgery must be delayed. Preferably wait until her son can't gather the money. I just want to let him know, without President Lu, he is nothing. Don't worry. I'll bear the responsibility if anything happens. The person President Lu trusts the most now is me." Even the surveillance video of me being bitten by snakes back then also came out, showing it was all instructed by Pei Fan alone. Lu Wantang's fingers gripped the tablet tightly, her whole body trembling uncontrollably. She thought of my tearful complaints in the livestream, thought of my broken state when my mother died, thought of how she back then even helped Pei Fan accuse me of being unreasonable. A massive wave of guilt and anger instantly engulfed her. She let out a low growl, her voice full of overwhelming fury. "I actually believed this venomous person for so long." Her chest heaved violently. She hurled the tablet to the ground, the sound of the screen shattering, exceptionally harsh in the empty living room. At this moment, Lu Wantang finally sobered up completely. She not only lost the person she loved the most, but also became an accomplice in hurting me. She looked at the pitch-black night sky outside the window. For the first time, she realized how ridiculously wrong she had been, and this remorse would accompany her every day for the rest of her life. When returning to the Lu family on the private jet, Lu Wantang's mind was full of the scenes from the surveillance video. After the driver picked her up, she was heavy-hearted. Pei Fan at home heard the sound of the villa gate opening, and was still sitting on the sofa, his plain long robe giving off a bit of deliberate frailty. He was still clutching a string of prayer beads in his hand. The moment he saw Lu Wantang, his eye sockets instantly turned red. "Wantang, you're finally back." He excitedly stood up and ran to her side. "Where have you been these past few days? I couldn't contact you. I couldn't sleep well at night. I could only chant and pray for you over and over, begging Buddha to bless your safety." He was about to reach out to hold Lu Wantang's arm, but she turned sideways to avoid it. The moment his fingertips hit empty air, Pei Fan's heart skipped a beat. Looking up, he happened to meet Lu Wantang's sinister eyes. There was not a shred of the past doting in them, only an unmelting coldness and anger, like a poisoned sharp blade, stabbing straight at him. Chanting and praying, Lu Wantang's voice was low and hoarse, carrying suppressed violence. "Are you begging Buddha to bless you? That I don't discover those dirty things you did." Pei Fan's face instantly turned deathly pale. His feet subconsciously retreated. "Wantang? What are you talking about? I don't understand. Did someone speak ill of me in front of you? Don't believe them. My heart for you has always been true." "True," Lu Wantang sneered, and raised her hand to signal the bodyguards behind her. Soon, the bodyguards carrying a stack of documents and a tablet, walked over and heavily placed them on the coffee table. Lu Wantang's voice didn't have a trace of warmth. "The video from the sky burial platform, the chat records between you and the hospital director, your criminal record from 3 years ago, scamming the elderly out of merit money, and those things you did to Beak. Do you want me to read them out to you one by one?" Pei Fan's gaze fell on the tablet screen. Those familiar scenes pierced his eyes even more, making them sting. He trembled all over. The fear of being discovered surged into his heart. The pretense he put on could no longer deceive Lu Wantang. He knelt on the ground with a thud, his hands tightly gripping her trouser legs, crying miserably, "Wantang, I was wrong. I didn't do it on purpose. Those are all misunderstandings. Please forgive me this one time, okay? I won't ever dare to do it again. I will still chant for you like before. Pray for the Lu family." Lu Wantang abruptly raised her foot and fiercely kicked away his hand. Pei Fan fell heavily to the ground. his forehead bumping and bleeding. Those things you did to be. Why didn't I see you begging Buddha to bless him? She crouched down, grabbed his chin, and forced him to look up at her. Her eyes were full of scarlet anger. You stopped his mother's surgery, sent his mother's body for a sky burial, and even recorded a video. You put snakes in his room, watching him get scared half to death. You made him cut flesh to feed eagles, forced him to drink dog meat soup. When you did these things, why didn't you think about today? Pei Fan was frightened out of his wits by the ruthlessness in her eyes. Tears mixed with blood flowed down. He begged for mercy incoherently. I was wrong. I was really wrong. I was possessed by ghosts. I was jealous that Gu Baiken could get your love. I did all this because I love you too much. I shouldn't have harmed him. I shouldn't have lied to you. Please spare me. I promise to disappear from now on, and never appear in front of you again. Spare you, Lu Wantang. Let go. When she stood up, her voice was cold as winter ice. Back then, when you struck Baiken so ruthlessly, why didn't you think of sparing him? She ordered the bodyguards, drag him to the basement. 2 bodyguards immediately stepped forward and hauled up Pei Fan, who was slumped on the ground. Pei Fan struggled desperately, screaming, Lu Wan, you can't treat me like this. I am someone you loved. Have you forgotten how you treated me before? You saved me. You said you would protect me for a lifetime. Loved you. Lu Wanton looked at his wretched state, only feeling incredibly ironic. I must have been truly blind before, to treat a venomous person like you as a treasure. She paused, a trace of ruthlessness added to her eyes. The suffering he endured. Don't even think you'll escape a single one? The basement was cold and damp. Lu Wantong stood in the shadows, watching the bodyguards pick up whips and fiercely lash at Pei Fan. The crisp sound of the whip, accompanied by Pei Fan's miserable screams, echoed in the empty basement. The whip tore his clothes, leaving hideous blood streaks. He rolled on the ground in pain, crying hoarsely, I was wrong. Help. I won't dare do it again. Not enough. Keep hitting. Lu Wantang didn't waver in the slightest, until Pei Fan was beaten bloody all over, barely breathing. Did she raise her hand to signal the bodyguards to stop? Immediately after, another bodyguard walked over carrying an iron cage. Inside were several snakes flicking their tongues. Exactly the same as the ones Pei Fan put in Gu Baiken's room back then. Exactly the same. Lock him in the dark room, and put the snakes in. Lu Wantang's voice didn't have a single ripple. As if talking about an irrelevant matter, Pei Fan saw the snakes in the iron cage, and convulsed with fear. But soon he didn't even have the strength to beg for mercy. The bodyguards dragged him, and threw him into the pitch-black dark room. Then they opened the iron cage, and put the snakes in. Miserable screams came from the room, mixed with the hissing of snakes and Pei Fan's wailing, piercing and desperate. Lu Wantong stood outside the door, listening to the commotion inside, but her heart felt no pleasure at all, only a desolate wasteland of remorse. It was too late after all. Even if she avenged Baik, she could never bring back that man whose heart and eyes were full of her. Pei Fan was locked up for a whole night. The darkness of the dark room completely swallowed him. Iron chains were locked around his ankles, every movement making a harsh sound. The hissing of the snakes in his ears was exceptionally clear in the silence, constantly reminding him of the fear he once inflicted on me. When he was first locked in, he cried and begged for mercy, his voice hoarse to the point of bleeding. Outside the door, there were only the cold footsteps of the bodyguards. At night he curled up in the corner. His wounded skin was soaked by the damp air, aching, but hatred grew madly in his heart. He hated Lu Wantang's ruthlessness, and hated me even more. If it wasn't for me, he would still be the Buddhist disciple held in the palm of her hand today. How could he end up in such a state? Not knowing how many days he was locked up, Pei Fan's fingers accidentally touched a small razor blade hidden in the crevice under the bed. That was something he accidentally picked up a few days ago, and secretly hid. He didn't expect it to become his only hope now. He first pried open the chains on his body, then endured severe pain to grind the door lock bit by bit with the blade, completely ignoring his bleeding fingertips. Finally, late one night, with a soft click, the door lock was pried open. After sneaking out of the dark room, the villa was so quiet that only the ticking of the wall clock remained. He felt his way in the dark and sneaked into Lu Wantong's bedroom. Moonlight spilled onto the bed through the gap in the curtains, illuminating the sleeping face of the woman, and in his opened palm, strikingly clutched a photo of me, which Lu Wantong had taken herself back then. It's all because of you. You both ruined me. Pei Fan's eyes instantly turned frighteningly red, his teeth gnashed together. His voice was lowered but full of madness. Lu Wantong, you must be blind to still be thinking about that man. I'm suffering, so neither of you can have a good time. He remembered the snakes in the warehouse that hadn't been disposed of yet, and stealthily brought one back. The snake was disturbed, flicking its tongue and twisting its body. Pei Fan's eyes were vicious. He gently lifted the blanket, and firmly pressed the snake onto Lu Wantang's neck. The snake was startled, and immediately coiled around Lu Wantang's neck. Cold scales pressed against her skin. The feeling of suffocation instantly seized. Her Lu Wantang suddenly jolted awake from her dream. Opening her eyes, she saw Pei Fan's twisted face. Her throat was choked by the snake, unable to make a sound. She could only struggle desperately. The man's nails almost dug into her flesh. Lu Wantang, go die. If you die, Gubaikan won't have a good end either. I want both of you to die with me. In the chaos, Lu Wantang's elbow fiercely struck the bedside table. After a loud crash, the water cup and expensive ornaments scattered all over the floor. The huge noise tore through the silence of the late night. The servants downstairs were awakened, and hurried over holding flashlights. Pushing the door open, they saw a horrifying scene. Lu Wantang's face was livid, her neck coiled by a snake, having lost all strength to struggle, while Pei Fan, covered in injuries, was straddling her, screaming with a crazy look in his eyes. She deserves it. Who told her to help Jiu Baikan deal with me? Don't come over, or I'll strangle her to death. Hearing the commotion, bodyguards quickly rushed in, pinned Pei Fan to the ground in one go, and forcibly tore off the snake coiled around Lu Wantang's neck. When the medical staff arrived, Lu Wantang had already fallen into a coma, her pulse weak. She was rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment. Pei Fan was pinned to the ground, his hair messy, yet a bizarre smile hung on the corners of his mouth. He crazily cursed Gubei. Even if I go to jail, I won't let you off. That idiot Lu Wantang, thinking of you till her death. It's truly laughable. You both will die a horrible death. In the end, Pei Fan was arrested by the police for attempted murder. What awaited him was severe punishment by the law, and Lu Wantang lay in the hospital's intensive care unit. The instruments showed weak vital signs, and she never woke up. In an early morning of late autumn, just as I opened the flower shop door, I received a call from a relative. My grandmother had a sudden heart attack, and was rushed to the county hospital. The flowers in my hand fell to the ground with a smack. My mind buzzed. I couldn't care about anything else. Grabbed my bag and rushed to the hospital. In a panic, I tremblingly dialed Lin Cheng. Use number Cheng Yu grandma. My voice was trembling. Don't panic. Send me the address. I'll be right there. She interrupted me, her tone as steady as a sea-camming needle. By the time I arrived at the hospital panting, she was already standing at the emergency room door, not even having time to change out of her white coat. Seeing my pale face, she walked over quickly, and held my hand. Don't panic. The doctor says she's stabilized for now, but needs observation for a few days. Her hand was very warm, the temperature from her palm transmitted over bit by bit, slowly putting my suspended heart at ease. In the following days, she became a regular visitor to this hospital. Every day after work, she would bring fresh fruit and cooked porridge to the ward to chat with Grandma. She knew Grandma's teeth weren't good, so she always cooked the porridge soft and mushy, and stewed the dishes until flavorful. Grandma liked listening to operas, so she downloaded many classic arias on her phone, and placed it by the bedside, playing on loop. Cheng Yu is such a considerate girl. Grandma held my hand and secretly mumbled, good temper and meticulous. You must cherish her. Saying that, she even winked at her. She would always blush, lower her head, but couldn't hide the smile on her lips. I watched this scene. My heart felt as if soaked in warm water, rippling with waves of warmth. She never asked much about my past, but always appeared when I needed her. During the time Grandma was hospitalized, she helped handle various procedures, and would even keep watch outside the ward for me at night. When the flower shop was unattended, she asked her nurse colleagues to help keep an eye on it. During her own rest time, she went to the shop to help organize the flowers. One time I woke up in the middle of the night, and saw her asleep leaning on the bench outside the ward. Moonlight spilled onto her face through the window. Her eyelashes fluttered gently, a faint smile still on her lips. I stood there looking for a long time, an indescribable emotion welling up in my heart. It wasn't a passionate excitement, but like warm water, a warmth that seeped into the bones bit by bit. These trivial cares made me feel more secure than Lu Wantang's earth-shattering pursuits back then. It made me feel steady. On Valentine's Day, the flower shop was exceptionally busy. When I saw off the last customer, it was already dark. Just as I was about to close, the wind chimes rang. She stood at the door, holding a bouquet of flowers in her hand. It wasn't the common roses, but my favorite small daisies and sunflowers. paired with tiny baby's breath. Aren't you busy today? I was a bit surprised. I specially switched my shift. She smiled and walked up to me. Her eyes were serious and carried a hint of nervousness. Her voice was gentle but firm. Baiken, there's something I've always wanted to tell you. Hearing this sentence, my heartbeat suddenly skipped a beat. Perhaps it was because her eyes were too sincere, making me faintly guess what she was going to say. I know you've experienced many bad things in the past. She looked at me, speaking very slowly, word by word. Those pains might take a long time to slowly dissipate, but I want to stay by your side, accompany you through every day from now on, to give you warmth and happiness. She stared intently into my eyes, and held my hand. Are you willing to let me try staying by your side forever? I looked at the sincerity in her eyes, and the warmth in my heart grew stronger and stronger. Thinking of her companionship and care these days, thinking of Grandma's gratified smile, thinking of how my mouth couldn't help but rise every time I saw her, I gently nodded. Her eyes lit up instantly, like two small lamps were lit. She carefully handed the bouquet to me, her fingertips gently caressing my hand. Both of us blushed. From that day on, we became the most common couple on the streets of the small city. She would accompany me to the supermarket on her days off, carrying a shopping basket following behind me, earnestly remembering what I like to eat, and what I hate to eat. We would go watch a late-night movie together. After the movie, we'd walk slowly along the seaside. The sea breeze brushed our cheeks, carrying a faint sweetness. On weekend mornings, she would accompany me to the seaside to watch the sunrise. Watching the morning sun slowly rise from the sea level, she would gently hold my hand and say that for every sunrise in the future, she wants to watch it with me. No earth-shattering vows, no priceless gifts. Having continuous companionship and cherishing, I gradually realized that true happiness is not living in a gorgeous cage like before, but having someone remember what you like to eat, silently staying by your side when you're sad, appearing first when you need them, letting you wake up with a smile with peace of mind every day, and sleep soundly. I put my arm around her shoulder, looking at the children playing by the sea, a long-lost smile appearing on my lips. That was a genuine smile from the bottom of my heart, truly belonging to myself. I knew I had finally stepped out of the shadow of the past, and found my own happiness. That day, I was arranging bouquets in the shop, when my phone rang. It was a call from the assistant. Mr. Gu, President Liu. She has been hospitalized. My hands paused for a moment. It's Payfan. He escaped and strangled her neck with a snake, almost strangling her to death. Now she is still in the ice and hasn't woken up. I was silent for a few seconds. Is there anything else? No, nothing else. Then I'll hang up. I put down the phone and continued arranging the flowers in my hands. Lin Chengyu walked out from the inner room. Seeing my expression, she asked softly, "What's wrong?" "Nothing." I smiled at her. "Lu Wantang is hospitalized." She looked at me for a while, didn't ask any further, just walked over to help me arrange the flowers together. The sunlight outside the window was nice, spilling on those fresh roses and daisies, glowing with a warm light. I looked down at the flowers in my hands, my heart completely peaceful, like a pool of stagnant water, without a single ripple. That woman's life or death had nothing to do with me anymore. She had taken a knife for me, and also carved out my heart for another person. She gave me the most passionate love in the world, and also, personally destroyed everything I had. Are we even? No, we are not even. My mom's life, the suffering I endured can never be cleared. But I don't hate anymore. Hating is too tiring. I just want to live my life well, and live peacefully with the person in front of me. Live on plainly. A week later, the news came out. Pei Fan, due to attempted murder and multiple other charges, was sentenced to 15 years in prison. After he went to prison, I heard his life was very tough. Those inmates couldn't stand his hypocritical face, and bullied him in various ways, pouring slop into his food, beating him at night with a blanket covering his head while he slept. The Buddhist disciple who used to wear plain clothes and chant Umi now wears a dusty gray prison uniform, with scars on his face, and only resentment and fear left in his eyes. When I saw this news, I was eating breakfast. Lin Chengyu put a fried egg in front of me, glanced at my phone screen. "Don't look at these anymore," she said, after eating. "Let's go for a walk by the sea." I smiled, put the phone aside. Okay. A year later, early summer in the small coastal city, the sea breeze carrying the fragrance of gardenias brushed past the gauze curtains at the church door. I was wearing a simple white suit, holding a bouquet of sunflowers and daisies, looking at Lin Chengyu slowly walking towards me. She was wearing a beautiful wedding dress, her eyes so gentle they could drip water, From the moment she stepped onto the red carpet, her gaze never left me. There were not many guests sitting in the church, flower shop colleagues, nurses and doctors from the hospital, and a few regular customers who often bought flowers. Everyone wore dresses in similar tones, holding handmade blessing cards in their hands. The nurses gathered together, teasing in low voices. That Lin Chengyu finally got her wish. Grandma sat in the very front row, clutching the peace amulet she embroidered for half her life. Her eyes red, but smiling with extreme relief. For richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, are you willing to be with her forever? The priest asked the classic vow. I looked at Lin Chengyu's eyes, clear and firm. I do. Her eyes instantly turned red. I will spend my whole life protecting your peace and happiness, she said, her voice trembling slightly, but as solemn as taking an oath. At the moment of exchanging rings, warm applause erupted from the audience. Someone laughed and cheered. Kiss, kiss, I blushed, and gently lowered my head as she closed her eyes. Sunlight spilled in through the church's stained glass, falling on us, warm, as if to disperse all the gloom of the past. This was a wedding without luxurious ostentation, but had the most sincere blessings, and the happiness I once didn't dare to hope for. At the same time, in a distant prison, Pei Fan was squatting in a corner, clutching a moldy steamed bun in his hand. The Buddhist disciple, once in plain clothes, now wore a dusty gray prison uniform, his hair withered and yellow, his face still bearing scars from being scratched by other inmates, due to attempted murder and multiple other charges. He was sentenced to a heavy penalty, but after entering prison, he still couldn't change his domineering temper, and still considered himself a beloved Buddhist disciple. The inmates couldn't stand him, and found ways to bully him, pouring slop into his food, or beating him up in the toilet stall. He no longer had his past glory, could only stay behind the cold iron bars, day after day enduring the dullness and humiliation, occasionally thinking of Lu Wantang's past indulgence. Only a belly full of resentment and remorse remained. In the hospital's intensive care unit, Lu Wantang, after being in a coma for a year, finally slowly opened her eyes. A week later, on the hospital TV, she saw a live broadcast of a wedding scene. In the video, I was wearing a suit, smiling brightly, Lin Chengyu, holding my hand, her eyes full of sweetness. Baiken Lu Wantang's voice was so hoarse it was almost inaudible. Tears uncontrollably slid from the corners of her eyes. She wanted to reach out and touch the screen, but her fingertips were so weak she didn't even have the strength to lift them. A nurse noticed her poor condition, and hurried to call the doctor, but didn't notice that when she looked at the screen, her eyes held a desolate pain and despair. A few months later, Lu Wantang recovered and was discharged from the hospital. She didn't return to Lu Group, but transferred the company shares to a distant relative, and moved alone to a remote, small town. The town had no urban bustle, only bluestone roads and stretches of farmland. She created a vegetable patch in the yard. Every morning she got up to plant vegetables and water them. In the afternoon, sat in a rattan chair reading, and in the evening walked by the river. She would occasionally see news about me online. Someone took a photo of me holding a child, basking in the sun at the door of the flower shop. Lin Chengyu standing next to me, gently making the child laugh. There were also people sharing videos of me, Lin Chengyu, and Grandma, having a picnic by the sea. The scenes were full of warmth. Lu Wantang looked at those updates. A bitter smile would appear on her face. Her fingertips gently traced my smiling face on the screen, her heart full of endless regrets. She finally understood that some people once missed can never be returned to. She had personally destroyed my world, and now I had rebuilt my happiness under the protection of another. And the only thing she could do was to watch from afar and never disturb again. And one, under Lin Chengyu's day after day companionship, had already completely stepped out of the shadow of the past. My flower shop business was getting better and better. Occasionally I would bring the child to the hospital to see Lin. Whenever I watched my wife in the ward, gently treating little patients, watching the child hugging Lin Chengyu's neck acting spoiled, a satisfied smile would always rise on my lips. Those scars left by Lu Wantang and Pei Fan had long been in Lin Chengyu's tenderness and love, slowly healed. Life went on simply like this, no earth-shattering events, but a steady, continuous tranquility. I finally understood that true happiness was never the fine clothes and rich food of a wealthy family, but having someone willing to spend their whole life accompanying me to watch sunrises and sunsets, protecting her from the storms, letting me wake up smiling every day, and sleep peacefully. 3 years later, our daughter was 3 years old. Her name is Jiyu Nyan. Her nickname is Nia. Nyanian looks like her mom, with big eyes and a sweet smile, but a temper like mine, very stubborn. Every morning, she insists on going to the flower shop with me. Daddy, I want to help you sell flowers. She hugged my leg, looking up with her little face, her eyes sparkling. I crouched down, pinched her little cheek. Okay, help Daddy sell flowers. She really brought a small stool and sat at the shop door. Seeing someone pass by, she would call out, Uncle, Auntie, want to buy flowers? My daddy's flowers are very beautiful. That milky voice could melt people's hearts. After work, Lin Chengyu would come to the shop to pick us up. When Nyanyan saw her, she immediately jumped off the stool and rushed over. Mommy, she picked up me and kissed my cheek. Are you tired? Not tired? I smiled and took her bag. Let's go. Time to go home for dinner. The setting sun stretched our shadows very long. Nyanyan rode on my shoulders, babbling a song. Lin Chengyu held my arm, humming along softly. Neighbors passing by would all smile and say hello when they saw us. Life went on simply like this. No earth-shattering events, no thrilling moments, only the smiling faces seen upon waking up every morning, and the good nights before going to sleep every night. Only the scent of flowers in the flower shop, the smell of food in the kitchen, only Nyanyan's milky voice and the tenderness in her eyes. I finally understood that true happiness was never the fine clothes and rich food of a wealthy family, nor those earth-shattering vows, nor those priceless gifts, but rather having someone willing to spend their whole life, growing old with you, watching sunrises and sunsets with you, experiencing storms with you, letting you wake up smiling every day, sleep peacefully, letting you know that no matter what happens, there will always be someone by your side. That is enough. It was another ordinary weekend. I got up early, braided Nyanyan's pigtails, and then took her to Grandma's place. Nyanyan, be good. Daddy and Mommy are going for a walk by the sea. Well, come pick you up tonight, okay? Hugging Grandma's leg, she waved at me. Bye-bye, Daddy. Bye-bye, Mommy. Lin Chengyu and I walked slowly along the coastline. The sea breeze was a bit cool, so she shrunk her neck. I took off my jacket and draped it over her. Cold, not cold. She smiled and held my hand. When we got tired of walking, we sat on a reef to watch the sea. The sun was setting, dyeing the sea surface a golden red. She leaned on my shoulder and softly said, "Bye. Thank you." Thank me for what? Thank you for being willing to let me stay by your side. I looked down at her, a wave of warmth surging in my heart. It should be me thanking you. I said, thank you for being willing to accompany me. Thank you for giving me a home. She looked up, her eyes bright. Then how are you going to thank me? I smiled and kissed her forehead. I'll use my whole life to thank you. She blushed and buried her face in my embrace. The sea breeze blew gently. The waves softly beat against the shore. The sunset merged our shadows together, indistinguishable from one another. In the distance came the laughter of children and the calls of seagulls. I suddenly thought of a long time ago. Those painful, desperate days. Thought of those tears, that blood, those unhealable wounds. But at this moment, those memories became very blurred and distant, like a nightmare that couldn't be remembered once awake. I know those wounds are still there. They will never disappear, but they won't hurt anymore, because someone smoothed them out bit by bit with tenderness, because someone covered them bit by bit with love. I looked at the person in my arms, a smile rising on my lips. Chengyu, I love you. She looked up, light in her eyes. I love you too. The sun has set. It will rise again tomorrow. Just like our life will keep going on plainly and happily like this. With her, with Nia, with our home. That's enough. Truly enough. Many years later, Nyanyan grew up, got into medical school, saying she wants to be a pediatrician like her mom. Lin Chengyu and I still live in that small coastal city. The flower shop is still there. Only now we've hired people to help. We don't need to watch it every day, every morning. We are still used to taking walks by the sea. She still likes to drink the ginger tea I make, still likes leaning on my shoulder to watch the sunset. Occasionally we would receive some news, hearing that Lu Wantang has been living in that small town, living in seclusion, rarely interacting with people. Someone took a photo of her with full white hair, planting vegetables alone in the yard. I heard Peifan had a very hard time in prison, critically ill several times but survived. I heard he mumbles something like Umataba every day, like a real madman. But none of this matters to me anymore. My life has long lost any intersection with theirs. In my life, there is only the person in front of me, this person who accompanied me for more than half my life, this person who used a lifetime of tenderness to heal all my pain. Baiken, she called me softly. The sunset is really beautiful today. I put my arm around her shoulder, looking at that golden red on the horizon. Yes, really beautiful. Well, come see it again in the future. Okay. Well, come see it again in the future. The waves gently slapped the beach. The sea breeze gently blew our white hair. We leaned on each other, quietly watching the sunset slowly sink into the sea level. This life is enough, truly enough. The story conveys a profound message about the nature of resilience, the meaning of true connection, and the transformative power of genuine love. It serves as a poignant reminder that genuine happiness is not found in the superficial grandeur of material wealth or the status of a golden cage, but rather in the quiet, enduring comfort of sincere companionship, mutual respect, and shared growth. Through the protagonist's journey, the narrative illustrates that while the deep scars of betrayal and trauma may never fully vanish from one's soul, they can be tenderly healed by the steady, unassuming presence of a partner who values your peace of mind and cherishes your existence above all else. Furthermore, the story highlights that the path to true redemption and inner peace requires the courageous act of releasing the heavy burden of the past. By letting go of all-consuming hatred and the cycle of vengeance, one creates the necessary space to embrace a simple, everyday warmth. Ultimately, it teaches us that love is not a tool for control or a grand, performative gesture, but a steady commitment to protecting one another, providing a foundation where one can wake up with a smile and sleep without fear, proving that the most profound fulfillment is found in a life built on trust, kindness, and the humble beauty of a shared future.